Good evening and welcome, everybody. I'm Terry Kay of the Jewish Grandparents Network. Thank you for joining us tonight for grandparenting at a distance. We know that for many of you, this is a deeply personal and important topic. And we are thrilled to be able to present you with this gathering tonight. We are absolutely thrilled that Dr. Kerry Byrne is our presenter. May I start by thanking Julianne Rollins-Richon of Tiny Windows Consulting and Sarah Reed, our JGN colleague, who are helping facilitate. We will end sharp with Dr. Kerry will end sharp at 8 o'clock. And then we'd like to invite you to stay on from 8 to 8:15 to share amongst ourselves ways that you stay in touch with your grandchildren, specifically for the Jewish traditions. And let's try to focus on Hanukkah, which starts on Thursday night. Of course, we want your questions. So if you could write them in chat, raise your Zoom hand, we will take questions throughout. Now, may I introduce Dr. Kerry Byrne, who is the founder of the Long Distance Grandparent, a mission-driven business helping grandparents strengthen relationships with their grandchildren, no matter what the distance is between us. Kerry has over 20 years of experience spanning business, academia, and the not-for-profit sector, and she believes that by strengthening intergenerational connections within families, we can create a more caring, a more connected, and a less ageist society. Kerry lives in Toronto. Over to you with huge thanks.
Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you to the Jewish Grandparents Network for having me here this evening. I have been excited and looking forward to this chat. There's nothing that I love more than the opportunity to see a sea of grandparent faces on Zoom. And when I first started the Long Distance Grandparent and doing these Zoom presentations, it was really during the pandemic, and people felt like, how can you connect really on presentations through Zoom? But I can really feel what you're feeling. I see the nods, I see when you're writing things down. And so that gives me a ton of energy. What I'm going to do to start us all off, and as people trickle into the call, I'm going to share my screen, share some slides. Do not worry, it will not be a death by PowerPoint situation, even though my background is in academic research. I have long since gotten rid of the slides that have the entire study printed out on the slide as they used to when I first started. But what I want to do is, while I touch a few magic buttons here to share my slides, I'd love for you all just to go into the chat and share the ages of your grandchildren and just let us know what you'd like to get out of our time together tonight. I'm pretty good on the fly, and so I can definitely make sure that I adapt things as we go on throughout the presentation. So head into the chat, write out the ages of your grandchildren, and let me know what you hope to get out of our time together, and I will touch the magic slide button in the process. Okay, so we have people coming in fast and furious on the chat. Andrea's got a 5-year-old and 2 2-year-olds. Deborah has 1 grandbaby who's 16-month-old. He lives in Austin, Texas. She's splitting her time and being able to see him. Leslie's got a 3 and a 6-month-old. Margaret, 12, 10, and 8. Mark has a 2-year-old. Girls that are, Muriel has a girl who's 10 and 7, boys 3 and 1, and she's looking for additional ways to stay connected. You will find a lot of ways in this presentation to stay connected for all ages. We've got 11 months. Oh my goodness, Sydney has a gaggle of grandchildren here, 8, 9, 10, 2 14-year-olds, a 15-year-old, and a 16-year-old. We will address your teenage grandchildren tonight as well. I know that many people struggle when their grandchildren get into that tween teenage, and we'll talk about that tonight. 2 years old. Oh, Ellen is expecting another grandchild in February. Congratulations. That's amazing. So we have, oh my goodness, tons of ages, 14, 10, 8, 6, 21, 17, and 18 months. Susan Brenner, that's quite a range of grandchildren that you're trying to stay connected with. Thank you all so much for sharing. Someone has mentioned the difficulty, especially when the grandchildren live overseas. That's something that I hear a lot about, is trying to navigate time differences. I have been in that situation myself. And so what I'll do just now, I'm going to just, okay. Sorry, just give me 1 second. I just realized my son unplugged my computer. Okay. Oh my goodness, sorry about that. Terry asked me how I was doing before I got on the call, and I shared with her that we've had the plague in our home. We've had a stomach bug. My 5.5-year-old had it on Saturday, and then at 2:30 this morning, my 9-year-old woke up with a mummy. So he stayed in my office last night so that he was close to me, and I think through that process, it was unplugged. So here we go. What I want to talk about today, a lot of you are here because you are grandparenting from a distance and you have this geographic proximity issue, right? You are geographically distanced from your grandchildren. Some of you likely feel that you are emotionally distant, and this can happen over time where it starts out okay, and then as the children get older, you start to feel a little bit emotionally distant. There are about 1.5 billion grandparents in the world. There are a lot of you. In the US alone, there are over 70 million, and we know that half of grandparents in the US report that distance is an issue in staying in touch with grandchildren and feeling connected to them, and that 50% say that they live over 200 miles from their grandchildren. And so you're not alone. There are a lot of you, but the thing is that being a long distance grandparent feels different. And so you might have friends who have local grandchildren, but they just can't quite get how you're feeling about this. Grandparents now, I've been running the long distance grandparent for several years, and what I hear from grandparents after thousands of emails and many interviews with long distance grandparents is that you're worried that you might not get to know them and that they won't really truly know you. I hear from grandparents who are sometimes frustrated with the parents because they are not prioritizing the connection as much as you would like for them to do. And the thing is that being at a distance definitely makes it more difficult to stay connected. So is it harder? Yes. Do you have a big job ahead of you? Yes. But is it possible? Absolutely. It's absolutely possible. What I teach is how to be really intentional about staying connected and to immerse yourself in this connection as a grandparent. And I am known as a no fluff, all stuff kind of presenter because I like to share really practical ideas that you can use right away. And so you will get that from this presentation. And I'm going to start off by sharing with you the #1 secret to grandparenting from a distance. And that is to sweat the small stuff. So someone wrote a book many years ago and it was called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff. And so I'm giving you the opposite advice because the small stuff is about their interests, what they're into. I had an aunt who always remembered at our Thanksgiving celebrations that I did not like pumpkin pie. And there was so much pumpkin pie. And she would always bring a sugar pie just for me. And just that she remembered that small detail about me meant so much. You want to remember the small things about your grandchildren. And so these different printables here will be sent out to you tomorrow. I have created a printable pack for all of you because I want you to have the tools that you need when you get off this call to be more intentional in your grandparent and to have these ideas. So you can see that some people, we had people sharing in the chat, they've got 10 grandchildren. You're not going to remember what kind of pie everybody likes. You're going to have to cheat. And so this is why I offer these cheat sheets for you. And if any of you have, sometimes when celebrations are upcoming, this time of year, people are having in-person visits. And so I encourage you to print these out, take them with you, and be a grand detective while you're there. What are they reading about? What are they interested in? Who are they talking about? And this is whether your grandchild is 5 or 25. Who are the friends that they're talking about? What are their teachers' names? When you're engaging in a conversation with a child afterwards, while you're there on a video chat after, it's much more powerful to be able to ask about Mr. Hazlitt, their gym teacher, or ask about their soccer coach and know the name of their soccer coach. Find out when they have these practices. So I've given you a cheat sheet. Some people like things more in form. I love lists. And so I've given you my grand list, and just jot some things down about what they're talking about and what they're interested in. Maybe if you have younger grandchildren, they're not reading board books anymore. And so you don't want to send board books, right? They have graduated to the kind of big boy books. And those are the kinds of things that you want to purchase for them in the future. And then I've also provided you with a video call cheat sheet. I'm going to do a demonstration at the end of this presentation that will show you how to engage some of your grandchildren through video, through the mail that you send. But having a cheat sheet can be really useful. So if you are able to have some questions prepared that you want to ask on a video chat, and I'll give you some examples. But then also when you get off a call, what did you learn from them? Because I know for some of you, especially if you have international grandchildren, you're only seeing them a couple times a year. And so the time at which you have to learn about them is during these video calls. And so you want to make the best of it. And so these will come out to you tomorrow, and you'll be able to use them right away. Print one out for each of your grandchildren. You don't have to fill it all out. Just jot things down as you go along. Terry mentioned that I am a researcher, and I have been for over 20 years. And one of my superpowers as a researcher is to take research evidence and make it useful. And so what I want you to know about me is that I'm actually not a grandparent. And I have to clarify this because maybe some of you are sitting there thinking that I don't necessarily look like a grandparent, although people on average become grandparents in their early 50s, which is always a surprise to people, but that's the age at which people have their first grandchild, men and women. What I want you to know, though, is that I'm the parent in the relationship. I once gave a presentation and somebody reached out to me afterwards and said, I spent this whole presentation wondering where Kerry, the founder of the Long Distance Grandparent, is, because I thought she was an 80-year-old grandpa and wondered who was this person talking. And so I'm the parent and I'm a researcher. And what I do with both of these roles in order to help long distance grandparents is that I can see what works on the other side. And I want you to know that I am in this. When I had my first child, I always say that I birthed in the process 6 long distance grandparents. I married a British guy, so we've had family from the beginning at a distance. I spent time in Dubai. So we were what I would say is ultra long distance. I understand that time differences, the only seeing each other twice a year. And I also want to tell you something else, that I'm not Jewish. And so why is the Jewish Grandparents Network inviting someone who's not Jewish and not a grandparent? Well, because what I teach is really universal. The techniques that I'm going to share today can be applied to any types of relationships that you're trying to keep up from a distance. We will focus on the grandparent-grandchild relationship, but I am doing this. And so there's probably not much you could ask me in the Q&A that I either haven't heard about before or won't be able to send you to the right resources. So this is just screenshots of my lovely family staying connected in person and from a distance. I am really somebody who likes to know where we're going. My husband always says, like, just enjoy the journey. And I want to know, like, where are we stopping for Starbucks? Like, what's happening on the way? And so I want to let you know what you can expect today, because that's really how I am. I'm going to share with you 5 key areas to focus on for connection. And then I'm going to teach you how to use something called the connection loop. You will use this over and over again, and you will think of me, I hope, fondly in years to come when you use this connection loop with your grandchildren of all ages. And then I'll do a show and tell, a demonstration. And I want for you to feel inspired and to leave today feeling inspired about the different ways that you might enhance the connection with your grandchildren. And I also want, during the presentation, for you to engage in what I call grand sourcing. So instead of crowdsourcing, grand sourcing. Whenever I'm in a group of grandparents, one of the most beautiful things that happens is that people start sharing ideas. And so I'm sharing something, and then you have an idea in your mind about how you might apply that to your scenario. Please share it in the chat so that Terry and the JGN can save the chat and potentially share with all of you, and flip through the chat and have a look, because this is where the magic happens, as when grandparents come together, and long distance grandparents, you know what it's like, and you have probably tried things and have ideas. So let's share those. So this is called Your Grand Path to Connection. And it's a framework. You cannot take the researcher out of a research scientist. And so I created this framework to help grandparents move towards more intentional, consistent, and meaningful connections. I also happen to really love alliteration. And so we have plan, partner, prepare, play, and preserve. So I didn't just pull this out of a hat. I interviewed tons of long distance grandparents, parents, some long distance grandchildren as well. I looked at the research around child development, around technology, around lifespan development, older adult relationships, intergenerational connection. And these are the real themes that came out: plan, partner, prepare, play, and preserve. I will go through each one of these and show you how to apply each one. But first, I want to teach you about the connection loop. So as a long distance grandparent, you have three main ways to stay connected. So you have snail mail. The mailbox is the absolute powerhouse of the long distance grandparent. No one else is probably sending them anything in the mail. And if you have ever been around when a child receives something in the mail, and by child, I mean, even when 47, when I receive something in the mail, it just feels so special. No one sends mail anymore. And so that is something, a very unique place that you can show up for your grandchildren. And then there are virtual connections, and you will all be familiar. Your friends have probably said to you, or you've thought yourself, thank goodness for FaceTime. It's not the same as a hug. But yes, thank goodness for the technology that we have available to us now. And so there's FaceTime, WhatsApp, whatever it is that you use as a family to stay connected. On video, you can send messages back and forth, not in real time. Tons of different technologies are out there and allow you to enhance this connection with your grandchildren. And then we have the coveted in-person visit. And these three things together are the three main moments that you'll have with your grandchildren. But what I teach grandparents to do is, how do you connect these things? So as an example, if you're going to send something in the mail, and in Canada, it is exorbitant to send an email. I'm not sure what it's like everywhere else, especially if you're sending to a different country. We want to get the best bang for your buck. And so if you've got an envelope, and sorry, I don't have an envelope right now, I wanted to show you, but you're going to make that envelope stand out. You're going to put, like, if they love cats, you're going to put cat stickers all over the envelope so that the envelope stands out in the mail. But before you send it, just take a picture of yourself with the envelope. Watch for this envelope. Maybe it's a polka dotted one. Maybe it's got bumpy cat stickers on it. Watch for this in the mail. It's from Grandpa and it is coming. And so that is a way to create some anticipation about what's coming in the mail. You can also do things like send something to them that you can then play on a video chat together. And so while most families have Play-Doh that is completely dried out because the children used it and someone forgot to put a lid on it. So you can send Play-Doh, for example. I know a grandpa who now plays Barbies with his granddaughter. And so he's got a Barbie, she's got a Barbie, and they play together online. So if you can send a small craft, whatever you're into, something in the mail that then you can then use on a video chat, that is a connection loop. When you go to see them in person and you leave that visit, you can leave the visit and send them a thank you for your time note. I know that for grandparents, it's really sometimes you don't hear back if you send something and you don't get a thank you note. What better way to model it than to thank them for the time that you spent together? And again, whether your grandchild is 3 or 30, send them a note letting them know how much you appreciated that time. Send them a quick video message on your way home on the plane. Like, we're on the plane, I just wanted to tell you I loved this moment, whatever it was, so much, and having that time together. And then the other thing that you can do, and you will find this in the printable pack that you'll receive tomorrow, I call them leave behind notes. Now, you can cut these out and create them. Honestly, you can just bring sticky notes, and grandparents will do this as well. But you just leave behind a note during an in-person visit, tuck it into a jacket, into their purse, into their shoe, into their soccer cleat for them to find after you leave. And you are just letting them know how much you love them, letting them know how much you enjoyed that time together. You can tuck a note under their pillow and say, when you get this, or tomorrow morning, give me a call. Write a joke on it, but don't give the punchline. So then that's an asking for connection, creating a connection loop. So there are a number of different ways that you can use these leave behind notes, but kids love, and I say kids, and again, I mean any age of grandchild. And don't be afraid also to leave these behind for the parents. And so the parents are an important partner. We're going to talk about them in a moment, but leaving a little note for your daughter-in-law or your son about, that you love their approach to the food and the children, or their parenting approach is amazing, or they've been so patient, or, thank you for this beautiful time together, whatever that looks like. If they're coming to visit you, you can do the same thing. Like there is, you can tuck something into their suitcase so that when they're unpacking, they find a note from you. Make sure that you do not put it into the laundry pile because you don't want that ending up in the washing machine when they get home. But, and again, you can just use sticky notes. You can use these that I'm providing for you, or just sticky notes and like put them on the inside of cupboards that they open up afterwards. And so you are leaving a part of yourself there and just letting them know, I'm thinking of you. Right, I'm thinking of you, and this visit meant a lot to me. We're going to just go back to the P's for a little moment here. So planning for connection. We'll start here. I actually teach grandparents how to create what I call a grandparent vision statement. We're not going to do that today, but I always think it's useful to sit down and just think about, what is your purpose as a grandparent? What do you hope to achieve? And for long distance grandparents especially, this is so important because you can come back to this document, because if your purpose as a grandparent is to make sure that they feel loved, encouraged, that they feel like they belong, then you can actually sit back and go, I can do that in the mail. So if I'm not getting a video chat like I want every week, I can send mail that does that. I can send them a terrific Tuesday text to my grandchild. Every Tuesday, you can send to your 18-year-old granddaughter something that's terrific about her. These are also what I call connection habits or rituals. So you want to get into the habit of doing these things. And it's really about, if you live locally, you might go to soccer practice every Saturday morning. You might have the family over Sunday night for a dinner, but you can't do that as a long distance grandparent. But I want you to spend time on the relationship when you can't be in the relationship. And so on Saturday mornings, when they're off at soccer practice and you wish you could be there, just sit down and write, get some letters together for them. I always think it's a great idea to have what I call a connection station. You can pick up all kinds of things at the dollar store, but I've got stickers, all kinds of things in here. You can put stamps, and you spend your Saturday morning just writing a postcard. You might decide that you're going to do that weekly, maybe monthly. You're going to send them a piece of mail on the 15th of every month, and it does not have to be much. It can be a postcard. It could be a picture of you together from your last visit, and you just turn that into a postcard and send that off to them on the 15th of every month, something different. And then you might decide yearly that the habit and the ritual that you're going to do, and this is really the behind the scenes work as a grandparent, is that perhaps every year, at the same time every year, you're going to write them a kind of milestone letter. Here are the things I've noticed about your beautiful growth this year, or whatever that might be. And so there are all kinds of things that you can include in these types of letters. But in your printable pack, you will find something that allows you to just plan out something that you might do weekly, something that you might do monthly, and something that you might do annually. Even if you have very young, even if you have babies as grandchildren, when you're sending mail, that's often for the benefit of the parent, but it's a beautiful habit to get into. And it's a great thing to do and to be doing over time, because what I hear from grandparents is that, sometimes I feel like I could be doing more, or I should be doing more. And you have to carve out that time because they're not showing up at your door to have that connection. And so it's just about creating that space and that time in your schedule, your busy schedule. Many people are still working and grandparenting at the same time, or have, major volunteer commitments or local grandchildren. So you've got to carve out that space for the long distance grandchildren and the parents. Partnering for connection. So the parents are your most obvious partner. And let's be honest, I'm a parent, but I will admit that parents are often the most challenging partner in the relationship. And so I encourage grandparents to look at, who are your other partners? So maybe there's a fun uncle. We have a fun uncle in our family, and he loves doing magic tricks. And so you can still be the gatherer, right? Grandparents are really good at gathering people, and you can still gather people on a Zoom call or whatever it is, whatever video chatting application your family uses. And so this is my family. You can see my children were a little bit younger here. My youngest is not okay being on this call. He's in the top right. We are probably muted. I'm probably leaning over to mute us at this moment, but I will tell you that the bottom right teenagers are only on this call, truly, because they want to see their younger cousins in Canada. And so, and this happens now. So this was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And my son, even who's 9, will come on the call because he wants to talk sports with his older cousins, but Oma's there. And this is our fun auntie and uncle. And so think about, who are the other partners. Sometimes the local grandparents can be a great partner, because if they have the grandchildren, they understand what it's like, the joy of grandparenting. But they also might be very willing just to send a photo of the grandchildren or send a video of the grandchildren. And so being able to work in partnership with the local grandparents is a really key relationship. And I think even having a video chat, because for kids, when you have the, all grandparents together, it really sends this message of, this family is cohesive, right? All of these people are your family. And so we can all come together and share that time together. Preparing for connection. I have Google here, and I call this grand Googling. And so what you want to be able to do is, you're going to take your grand cheat sheet. Maybe, I know some grandparents that have like a Smithsonian level knowledge of dinosaurs because their 5-year-old grandson loves dinosaurs. And then they're 9 and they love Minecraft, this video game. And you think, oh, I just don't even want to wrap my head around that one. But you have to wrap your head around the video games, whatever it is they're into. You might not know anything about Premier Soccer, the soccer league, but if they're obsessed with soccer, if they're obsessed with baseball, whatever sport it is, if they love dancing and they're watching this hip hop dancer all the time on YouTube, you want to find out about that person, because a couple of things, it will help you in your conversations with them. You can look up things when you're grand Googling, like, give me some would you rather questions about soccer. You can Google a lot of different things, right? Give me 5 quiz questions about Harry Potter. For some of your older grandchildren, it might be that they're really into climate change. Maybe they're a vegan. Maybe there's something that you're trying to look and notice. What do they care about? What are they talking about? If they're in the workplace, asking them and finding out more about their role in the workplace, even if you've never heard of it. Maybe they are a product manager for a technology company, which until I worked with a tech company, I didn't know what that was. But of course, you want to look up what that is. You want to look at things about their college, things about that are going on at their college or their university or their workplace, so that you can write to them about it, or that you can use these things on video chats. If they love a particular sport, their jokes, if you go into Google and ask for baseball jokes for 9-year-olds, you're going to find a lot. And so you can really Google a lot of different things and be prepared and write these things out so that when they do call, that you have things to talk to them about. There are a million ways to know what a child is interested in. And I think sometimes we know from the research that one of the biggest barriers to connecting between grandparents and grandchildren is that grandparents don't know what their children are into. And yet there are a lot of ways for us to know what those things are. And then play for connection. And so I show you this example because it's one of my favorites. This is actually a grand auntie, and she is staying connected with her grandchildren from a distance. She has an absolute willingness to play. I'll tell you what she's doing in a second, but here's the caveat. You can be prepared to play. You can have all the fun stuff. You are, ready to go. And mom would not give them an Oreo cookie right before the call or let them play their video game. And so they are not coming on to play, right? And it's not that you've done anything. It's not about you. It's about them. We all feel that way sometimes. We don't want to chat. Your 14-year-old granddaughter might have had a fight with her friends and just does not feel like engaging. And we all have those days. but we want to be ready to kind of play and be playful if they're ready. And so this game is actually called Spot the Difference. So I don't know if you have been to a million baby showers in your time like I have. There's always a memory tray, and you can play that on a video chat as well, a memory tray, and then you take something away and then you show the tray and what is missing. Well, this is doing it to your face and your head. And so this grandmother had, or grand auntie rather, had all these things on, and the whole family loved it. And she did this on Halloween, which I thought was really brave, because that is like fever pitch excitement time for kids. But everybody engaged. And so she would just cover the camera, take something off, and then they had to say what was missing. And you look at what she's got on. You could do this tomorrow with your grandchildren, but you've got to invite them to play. They have to be, if you've especially not been playing games with them, if they're 8, 9, 10, then you've got to let them know that you've got a game to play. And we'll go through a few more of those in a minute. But I think that it's really about just a willingness to be playful and a little silly, even if it doesn't work. But beyond that, for some people, being silly is not really your thing. And that's okay too. What I want for us to figure out tonight is, what is your brand of grandparenting? What makes you feel really connected, and what do your grandchildren respond most to? And it might not be this game. You might look at this and go, I will never do this, Kerry. And that's completely okay. But there will be other things that you can do to facilitate this connection. And then the final P is my favorite one: preserve for connection. Because of course, if you were going to do this much work in staying connected to your grandchildren, if you were going to have a connection coffee with them on Saturday morning and work on the relationship and do all of these things, then I want you to preserve it. And so when you're visiting with them, make sure that you get in the photos, right? Take videos of yourself, because one day this is what they will want to see. They already have 35,000 photos of themselves, I promise, on their parents' phone. But what they will want to see one day are photos of themselves with you. And then of course, you can use those photos and then send a follow-up postcard or a follow-up letter. And it doesn't have to be fancy. Just print out this photo from your printer at home or at the library and just write a quick note. Loved watching you play soccer, and, reminding them about a moment that you shared together, because preserving is really about preserving your relationship. And that is definitely what I want you to be doing moving forward with your grandchildren. And I know that it is hard to remember to get in the photos, and I'm like a broken record reminding people to do that. So I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen and do a little bit of a demonstration for you, sharing some ideas. But what I want to just quickly say right now is that I want to acknowledge that this is really hard, grandparenting from a distance, and that it's something that I woefully underestimated when I started working with long distance grandparents, is that it is really emotionally complex. And so while you might feel, and you can feel, just pure joy at having grandchildren, also you can feel like your heart is being ripped out and crushed because it does not look like what you wanted it to look like. And so I am here kind of all energetic and talking about all these ideas and sunshine and rainbows, but I want you to know that it is the thousands of grandparents that I've heard from, I would say the majority of them in emails when people are reaching out to me, there's some component of grief and sadness, because this is not how you wanted to be a grandparent. And so I'm just going to share one technique, because we don't have the necessarily, we could do another entire presentation just on this, because not a lot of people are talking about this. We're not talking about how it is like deeply hurtful, to not hear from your adult children, to feel like they're not prioritizing the relationship, but also just the very kind of simple fact that this is not how you envisioned being a grandparent, and wow, do you ever wish it was different? Here's something that can be really helpful, because you can be really grateful that you have grandchildren, and you can also be deeply saddened. And so grief experts will share this kind of thinking, and it's called both and thinking. You can be very proud of your children for going off on an adventure, creating a beautiful life for their family, for your family. In many ways, taking all the skills that you taught them about, right? Be adventurous, go for it, kid. Sky's the limit. And so you can be proud of them, and you can also feel this real feeling of resentment and sometimes sadness that they're not there. Like both of those things can exist at the same time. And I think sometimes when we're talking about long distance grandparenting, I do focus a lot on the practical ideas, but definitely the idea that it is very difficult from an emotional perspective is something that, when you are standing in Target or Walmart and you burst into tears, when you see some toy, you see someone with their grandchild there, that you're just not alone in that. And I just want you to know that. Okay, so I'm going to shift gears and share with you some ideas about how to stay connected. And this will be, you might want to jot some things down if you have a piece of paper there. And remember these, because if your grandchildren are calling tomorrow, you might want to use some of these ideas. This is really looking at grandchildren, who are babies all the way into adults. I'm going to cover them all. It might be a little all over the place, but just bear with me. That's just how my brain is when I get into this. When you're FaceTiming with babies, it's really about getting them familiar with your voice. I'm not going to sing for you right now because you might want to get off the call if I did that. My voice is just horrific, but you want to use kind of like Itsy Witsy Spiders, like using songs that have actions. You also want to have a kind of little tickle trunk, or I call it a video chat grab bag. And get into this habit early with even babies. You want to be showing them things, and think about if you were there, you'd be showing them some things on video chat. And so you've got your little bag, and it doesn't matter how little they are, maybe you're going to show them that, you're a little kitty, and your little kitty, oh, meow, meow, meow. And you're going to play on this video chat with them. You can position it as, I want to just introduce you to some of my friends as they get older. Because children who are actually, the research shows us that even at 17 months, if they have been video chatting with somebody for a week, when they're put in the same room with that person or a stranger, they are more likely to go to the person that they've been video chatting with. And so while it feels not as satisfying as holding them in your lap, there are all kinds of things that you can do. For little ones, you want to, there are little books like this that you can get that make noises, right? Like we want to be interesting. You want to say, grandma's here to play. And, you can read books to them in this way. There are apps that you can use to read books for small children, but I'm actually a huge fan of drawing on, just a Sharpie. So I always say that you can improve your connection with your grandchild if you have a Sharpie and some fruit and vegetables around. And this is what I mean by that. And so you can come onto a call, and maybe in my bag, I'm actually going to ask you, do you want to meet some of Nana's friends? Because I've got, Annie the apple here. And I have to tell you, I usually use a red pepper and say Ruby the red pepper, but it was rotten in the fridge tonight, so I did not pull that out. And I don't have a great name for why, but maybe it's like Yolanda, the yellow pepper. Again, alliteration, I love that. But you can do things like, and like your fruits and vegetables can be, puppets. It's like, oh, Yolanda misses you so much. And, Annie the apple's coming here to say, don't worry, you'll see each other soon. Bananas are always a great one as well. My children, my youngest would not eat a banana without a face for a long time, because bananas you can draw faces on, and you usually have more than one around. Get to them before they are rotting, because then you can't see the faces on them as much. But of course, you can use a banana even as a microphone. If you want to interview your 5-year-old grandchild, I encourage grandparents to do what I call the grand interview project, no matter what the age of your grandchild is. So we're often encouraged to interview our grandparents, but I want you to flip that. I want you to interview them. So if you have an upcoming time together as a family, you can draw names, who's going to interview who, or you can just say, this is Nana's project, and I'm going to be interviewing all the grandchildren, and it's a beautiful way. Bring your cheat sheet with you. Ask them whatever you want. Throw in some would you rather questions. Make it interesting. And if you do it on a video chat, something else that I love are these wooden spoons that you can just get a pack of these at the dollar store. I'm telling you, these are beyond helpful for long distance grandparents. because you can, I'm just looking around at my own tipple trunk and it is failing me right now, but you can use this as a microphone. You can turn this into a puppet, right? Into, whoever it is, you can have different puppets. They're kind of coming in and off the screen. You and grandpa could be doing this together. So again, this willingness to be really playful is important. You can also do things with wooden spoons like, put pictures on them and tell family stories. And so maybe the parents have sent you these beautiful photos of themselves. And so you can turn these in to puppet shows and, talk about where they were. And I love getting this picture of you. Anything, like you have this box, right, to engage the grandchild in. And so anything that makes you stand out. And, if you were 5, would you rather kind of come on to a video chat with me or with me? And so this, I have to tell you, this scares some kids. So just be careful because you will look quite different. But if you have an 8-year-old who's giving you a hard time on a video chat, throw these on. They want to see that you're being silly, but of course you can get, all different kinds. I mean, go on to Amazon and there are tons of different glasses and these all go into your like, oh, I heard you're going to the movies tonight. And this doesn't have to be live on a video chat. You can just send them a video like this. And so let's talk about with older grandchildren. With some of you who have college age grandchildren, you're texting them, but they're getting tons of texts, right? So the whole idea is like, you want to stand out in their mailbox, but you also want to stand out in their inbox, which for kids is on their phones. And so you can, maybe that, your grandchild has a big test tomorrow. Well, then you and grandpa can get matching glasses and you're just going to, put your glasses on, take a photo. It's because it says good luck. I think, what did I write in here? Good luck, love, Nana. You take a picture of yourself with that, text that to them, and that is going to stand out to them, right? When children are tweens and teens especially, it's so natural for them to be kind of pulling away. They are trying to find their sense of independence. And so you really play this role and can play this role of grand cheerleader. We know from the research actually that these 5 sentiments, so telling your grandchildren, I love you, I miss you, I'm proud of you, I like spending time with you, and you are special to me. Those 5 things, when they ask adult grandchildren if they feel how close emotionally they feel to their grandparents, kids who heard that more often report more emotionally close relationships. And so just take any opportunity you can to let them know that you're noticing what a beautiful person they're becoming. You're noticing the things that they are, focused on and good at or struggling with. And again, you can do that through texting. If you want to just, send them a photo like this, but just engaging with them. So the final thing I want to share is this idea of being interactive, because sometimes when kids are younger, they get onto a video chat and you say like, how was school? And then nobody says anything because nobody wants to talk about school. I still do it with my own children. It's like, you cannot help but ask a child of school age, how was school today? But you want to be able to really quickly move on. And so because you have your grand cheat sheet filled out, because you've looked up some would you rather questions, or you've looked up some jokes about soccer for them, you have these written down. I always think that getting a pack of cue cards is great to throw into your video chat grab bag because you can do all kinds of things with them. And so you might decide that you're going to have a would you rather chat and just say to them, I have these questions I want to, I have these would you rather questions. Kids love would you rather questions, but it could be multiple choice. It could be a Pokemon quiz. It could be about anything. And so you are, but you want to make it interactive. So instead of just firing would you rather questions at them, you can say, okay, do you want the one in the blue bowl or the one in the orange bowl? And so they're going to pick. And if you don't have any bowls, just like which hand, do you want the joke in the right hand or the left hand? Or like grandpa has a joke, grandma has a joke, which one do you want? If you know that, there's the Blue Jays Canadian baseball team, if you know that they love a certain team, go out and get a hat and put that in your video bag, because it's like, do you want something from the Blue Jays hat, or maybe it's grandpa's favorite team hat? So you're saying to them, I know you, right? I'm noticing things about you. because you've got these kinds of things that they're interested in. But you're also engaging with them in different ways. And so instead of just telling a joke, just you can say, I want to teach you a joke to tell your friends, but is it the one in the blue bowl or is it the one in the orange bowl? For those of you who have college age grandchildren or older grandchildren, if you know that they're really into a particular topic or issue and you see something online about it, print it out, and then write a few questions in the margin and say, hey, can you, call me for 5 minutes. Sometimes grandchildren do not call their grandparents because they don't want to be on the phone for half an hour. They're just not phone talking people. And so just 5 minutes and honor that right after 5 minutes, gotta go, gotta go. And so you've asked them some questions and you set the stage for the conversation. I think I'm going to leave it at that for the demonstration. And so I hope that throughout this presentation that you have some ideas, that you feel inspired to stay connected. I definitely invite you to, in the chat, write out any questions. We're going to have a question and answer period. You can ask me anything. Before I go, what I want to let you know is that if you need some more ideas, I send out a weekly email newsletter, and you can sign up for that on my website, which will be in the chat. And then secondly, if you have grandchildren between the ages of 2 and 10, I actually lead and host a very special group called the Long Distance Grandparent Society, shortened to the LDG Society. This is an online monthly membership program, and there's information about it in the printable pack. There are 2 components. Every month you receive mail to send them that has the connection loop embedded into the mail. And then also we meet every month, a few times a month, and come together, share wins, share challenges, and there are often tears, a lot of laughter, but we connect together about what it's like to do this together from a distance. And so I invite you to check those things out. And thank you so much for having me tonight.
Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Stay another 2 hours. Seriously, we got so many questions in chat that I just want to jump in with a few, if I may. Sarah,
Yes.
Sarah Reed, could I ask you to put the longdistancegrandparent.com into chat again, because otherwise I'm going to lose my spot in the questions. So there've been a number of people who've asked about their grandchildren live in Israel or overseas. Many of our members, one family lives. The children live in Singapore. So there's this issue, there's 2 parts to this. One is what to do about the time difference. And the second is what to do when the grandchildren actually don't speak English well. Could you address that if possible?
Yeah. I'm just writing these down so I don't forget them. My mind is sometimes like a sieve and it just goes out. And so time differences are something that I'm really familiar with. And it really depends on the time difference. So the one that we were facing, like late at night, worked for, the grandparents at a very different time. Sometimes as a grandparent, you need to make a commitment to stay up a little bit later or get up a little bit earlier. And it doesn't have to be every day. You just commit to having a chat on, a Saturday or whatever it is, a time that makes sense for you to stay up a bit later. The other thing is that there is this wonderful app called Marco Polo. So I encourage you to have a look at it. I use it all the time. We use it all the time with our family, and so you're not real, you're not live, but it feels like you are. And so it's like a video walkie-talkie, and your conversations are at the bottom of the screen, so you can scroll through them. They're kept, but you will do a video, and you can use any of the ideas that I have just explained, and you do a video for your grandchild. Which do you want the would you rather question out of this or this, and then you end the video, and then they come back with their video. And so it's a video chat that happens back and forth, and it really is a beautiful way to stay connected. So I always recommend that app. If you use WhatsApp, that's fine. Send videos so that they can respond to things, still engage with them, show them that you're interested from a distance. And if you can get that kind of special, once a month, once a week, FaceTime chat scheduled in with the parents, that's amazing. In terms of language, so I've definitely worked with grandparents before. There are a lot of ways to learn just different phrases in a different language, and you just want to be showing that effort. And so There are artificial intelligence apps, but actually you can go on to something called wordhippo.com. And if you just want to know a phrase like I love you, or you want to say something in a different language, then it'll teach you how to say it. And so I think that just start there, with the small bits of language. And, when you are writing letters to younger children, especially, you can draw pictures. The kids talk in pictures. And so if they don't understand the language, then draw a picture of something that you did together on a recent visit. Draw a picture of them playing soccer. There are different ways. There are certainly many ways that you can communicate if you don't have the same language.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I just typed in wordhippo.com. Terry, Esther asks, the other grandparents are nearby and our grandchild sees them at least once a week for a day or two. I feel as if I am much less important to my granddaughter who's age 10. Any advice?
Yeah, I think that, yes, it can definitely feel that way. I think that importance and, can be defined in different ways. And so what I've actually seen with grandchildren is that when you're at a distance, you want to use that distance because there's something special about it. So there's something special about where you live, as an example, that you can share with them. And so you're going to have a different relationship than if you were local. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. But what we do know is that you can have strong relationships with grandchildren who live at a distance, but it just looks a little bit different. And so, with a 10-year-old, you want to find, what is your thing? You guys want to have a thing together. And I don't know if it's like, something that she's interested in that you can do together from a distance, that is your special time together. And so I think it's impossible to not feel that way. But what I will say is that what we know is that geographic proximity is definitely a risk factor to not having a close relationship. But with the technologies that we have and the things that we know about communication now, it is very possible, to have that relationship with your granddaughter. I'm sorry you're going through that and feeling that way. That's so tough.
As I'm scrolling through chat, I hope everybody's looking because there are some stunning suggestions there from experience. I wonder if you could add, we have a request to add any other ideas you might have for college-age grandchildren who are far away.
Yeah, so this one's interesting because grandparents sometimes become long-distance grandparents when their grandchildren go away to college. So they've had the benefit of having them close by for almost a lifetime, and then they head out to college. This is, again, where the mailbox becomes your best friend because you're able to mail things to them. You can mail little care packages that are themed, for example. So if it's, coming up to a cold season, send them fuzzy socks and, a gift card for Starbucks. Doesn't have to be much, or some hot chocolate or whatever it is. So I think sending out care packages that you've become known for because they're themed is a really great idea. And they love to share those, put in like a packet of gummies for all their friends because they love to share those with friends. I think that, if you're going to send a little Starbucks gift card, ask them what their Starbucks order is. College age kids are amazing in terms of like the double venti hot sauce, cream sauce, like whatever goes in a coffee these days. So just ask them to send you a selfie with their latest Starbucks order so that you know what that is. I think it's really about the mailbox. I think that, you can really get into whatever topic they're learning about. So if they're taking something at college, then, showing an interest in what that is, looking for some interesting articles online. I know a grandmother who does this with her 20-year-old granddaughter. She sends her these articles and writes things, some of her thoughts in the margins, and they have the most beautiful conversations as a result. Sometimes those conversations happen over text, and that's completely fine. But it's still the same principle. Sweat the small stuff, figure out what they're interested in, what's going on in their life when they're away at college. Also, for college age kids, I know that sometimes you want to text them all the time and they're not texting you back. Just pick a day. It's Fabulous Friday. I'm going to send, what is fabulous about you on a Friday, and just text them that once a week. And, not taking it personally when they don't come back to you right away, but try some of the ideas that I shared in the presentation today to see if you can kind of spice up that texting back and forth.
I'm going to need help here, please, somebody. Two people have asked for Kerry to repeat the 5 things she mentioned. And I must have been reading because I don't know what 5 things.
I can do
Can
it.
somebody help me? You know what it is?
Yeah.
Thanks.
So
Thank you.
yeah, the 5 things. This is the framework: plan, partner, prepare, play, and preserve. Or is it, okay, no, it's the 5 things. Okay, I love you. Am I on the right track? Give me a nod. I love you. I miss you. I'm proud of you. You are special to me. And I love spending time with you. If you go to my website, there's something called a grand word hug. And these are aimed at grandchildren who are a little bit younger. So I'm going to say probably 11 and under. I sell a printable pack that is based on this research, and I call it a grand word hug. And so I encourage you, when you send that, I'm proud of you, because I always want to add in because, but yeah, those are the 5 things.
Cool, great. I'm not going to spotlight myself, but we've got about 4 minutes left. I see 3 initial hopes that people had for the session that you can decide if you feel you've covered them. One was advice for changing the routine and connection point when the interests shift as the child gets older. 2, so that as the child, how to switch up. The second is when the child has no interest or ability in video chatting. And one person said the parent actually doesn't allow the child to see the grandparent, but the grandparent can see the child. And then I think language barriers we addressed. So yeah. It was the 2.
So as children get older and you want to, and I haven't read the question in the chat, so they're changing in their interests and you're trying to keep up with those interests, or is it how to figure out how the interests have changed? And so maybe
if the person wants to if you ever ask that, if you would like to unmute yourself, otherwise just proceed. Kerry, please.
Okay, so I think being really honest with grandchildren who are kind of like 9, 10, 11, 12, like, it was so much easier when you loved dinosaurs. And, but like, just be honest, right? Like when we just go bowling together, when I saw you, I'm not really sure what you want to do, but like, I'm here, like I'm in this with you and I want to know. You can always find out a grandchild's interest if you do something, like if they're getting a little bit older, use the grand interview project, make it your project, because kids will respond and participate in something if it's a family project that's being done led by you. But I would say that, if their interests are changing, then use that as a conversation point. Like, what are you into? What's your, like, you can do a game of favorites. Like, what's your favorite? You can do it on text, even ask them. So I think that's one way, as their changes and their interests are changing. And it's hard when you're at a distance because you don't see it day to day, and it happens. Like all of a sudden they were so into Pokemon and now Pokemon is for their younger brother and that is it. And you didn't get that memo. And sometimes you learn the hard way because you send them a Pokemon present and, it's not the present they want or whatever that might be. But I think that asking, right, using it as an opportunity, frame some of your questions as multiple choice questions and just say, I have some questions for you. And then you're doing like A, B, or C. My dad has done this with my son, and it's quite fun actually. Would you kind of rather A, B, or C? And then you're getting to know their interests in the process. And then the other question, yeah, sorry. The other one was when the parent, so when they're not letting you see the child on video chat, that is so tough. That's really hard.
No, it was excuse me. I think it's that the parents, my children are wonderful. They send videos all the time. They send photographs. We have a video chat with them every single week. Amazing. But they show him to us. He's not allowed to see us because he's 21 months old, and they believe that he shouldn't be looking at computers and computer screens and phone screens because they are concerned that it affects his brain development. So they don't let him see us. But we can watch him, and but
can you? Okay, a couple of things. Wonderful that they are, you have that level of engagement with them. So, can you send like a photo, a big face-size photo of yourselves, so that when they're, your daughter can use that when you're chatting so that it's photos of you there and you can kind of make a deal of it, right? I'm holding up this wooden spoon because I'm envisioning a great big large picture of you, being there while you're video chatting with them so that your grandchild knows who it is. The other thing, and certainly, number one, we've got to respect what parents want. If there are other people on the call who are struggling with this, video chat doesn't actually count when they say that children shouldn't have screens before 2 years old. The American Pediatric Association has put out actually a statement, it was around just before the pandemic, that video chatting is different because it's live, right? So the problem oftentimes when children are watching TV is that it kind of messes up with like how they can respond. But when you're live and interacting with them, they actually recommend using things like video chat because that helps nourish relationships from a distance. And so I am not suggesting that you try and approach that if parents are feeling strongly about it. But I do want people to know that that's kind of the facts and the research evidence around video chatting with grandchildren. And then, for that grandparent, you want to send mail with lots of photos. That's really key. You want to put your face in front of them in a different way.
Kerry, we have a predicament because I'm looking 36 new messages, and Leslie's got a hand raised, and you have got sick children at home, and I committed that we would end at 8. And I'm wondering, I don't even know. I did commit that I know you got to put your kids to bed, so I think we have to thank you and.
Sorry, I'm happy to stick around for another 5 minutes because the kids have also been put downstairs watching a movie, and so I can stick around for about.
Okay, so let's make it till 8.
People hanging.
Oh well, I'm afraid that it's inevitable because we've got so many questions. But perhaps they can follow up. And they can go to your website and contact you. There was a question. Let's just take 2 more questions, and then I had promised the group that we would share ideas for Hanukkah and what our members have done to bring the traditions to life across the miles. So Aviva had a question, and maybe you could just answer briefly. How important is time alone with the grandchildren without the parents during those infrequent visits?
So there are 2 answers to that because it really depends. Because some parents are just not comfortable leaving their kids with other people, and so that can definitely cause some tension in families because of course you want these little ones all to yourself. I personally think it's really important, to have that time with them. And if the parents are open to it, then trying to carve out those opportunities to have that one-on-one time. You can create things like time together coupons. And it can just be half an hour where, you and your 8-year-old grandson go out to his favorite ice cream shop. And so you can send that, with the parents' permission in the mail. I'd just like to take him out on his own for half an hour. Really important. Kids are so different when they're not with their parents. And that, oftentimes in good ways, where they will talk to you and you have that time together. So if the parents are supportive of it, then I definitely think it's a wonderful thing to do, is to have that one-on-one time during in-person visits, which is hard when there's lots of siblings. And so if you have a piece of paper that says, it was a gift that I gave you, time together coupon, or like a gift card that you sent and said, hang on to this because we're going to grab ice cream when I come visit, or grab a coffee when I come visit, or a hot chocolate, or whatever it is, then you've created a connection loop and you've made it a little more formal and official.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Our last question from Leslie, who has unmuted herself.
So my question is, our grandchildren live in Chicago. We live in San Francisco. We do on FaceTime. These are great ideas. How tactfully can I ask the mother to step away and I have to introduce this whole concept because we haven't been doing this. The mom's always, and she's the one feeding him questions or answers. Tell them about this. How tactfully can you flip the switch, explaining what we're about to approach in a tactful way?
How old are they, Leslie?
3 and 8 months. So I know there's 2 different elements here. I'm 3-year-old, 8 months. I understand what I need to do, but the 3-year-old, the conversation, if he's, it's almost like he has to be seated somewhere, because when he starts jumping around and getting crazy, then it's like, oh, we got to go. So, he's going to get excited because he sees us. So I'm trying to figure out, put him somewhere we can't touch the iPad, and we're going to have an interaction. I just want to approach my daughter in a way that's, this will work. We're trying an experiment. That's all I'm asking. How would you approach that?
So it's so natural for parents to do what's called scaffolding the conversation, right? Like, tell Nana what you did. And so having that moment together, and having your daughter probably really wants to also see you interact with her children, because that's quite special for parents to see. Like, I talk to parents, it's really quite touching and exciting for them when the grandparents find ways to engage with the grandchildren. So two things. One is that it can happen a little bit naturally once you are doing things like you're engaging the 3-year-old, and mom starts to see, like, I actually don't need to be around here. Like, I can take the 8-month-old and, or go surf Instagram or do whatever I want to do for a minute because Nana's got this. So that can happen naturally. The other thing that you can do is just say that you'd love to try, having a conversation, with the 3-year-old, because you've got a game to play. And she might still be there and hover around, and that's fine. I wouldn't necessarily say, and I want to do it without you here. But that can naturally happen. And so with a 3-year-old, it depends on, she's probably sat them down and is calling you during a great time, like a snack time or a meal time, which is really advisable actually if you have young grandchildren. And you do feel like as a parent, you want for you want the grandparent to have a good experience. And so that's what you do. I give my kids popsicles when they're on a video chat. But I think what you can say, this is new for everybody, right? Like, playing together. I did not play with my grandparents on a video chat. Your daughter likely did not play together on a video chat. And so just saying, I'd love to try something, and it might not work, right? You want to play a game called, Go Find Me, or you want to do a puppet show. And so is there a way that while they're having their snack, that you could do a puppet show? And like, once your daughter sees that you've got this and that you can keep that 3-year-old entertained, then I suspect there will be a natural stepping away because she's probably got a lot to do. And then as that child gets older, they're going to be pointing to the iPad saying like they want to talk to Nana. And so that will happen quite naturally. Is that helpful, Leslie? Okay, great.
You're getting the thumbs up. Kerry, we're going to let you go. This has been beyond outstanding. To our participants, in tomorrow's email that you'll get, I'm including a question if you would like to continue the conversation. If there's a response and people would like that, then Kerry, I'll approach you to see how we might do that. Maybe a smaller follow-up group, maybe a discussion group, and you and I can address that if there is interest.
Kerry, that's wonderful, because it really is. I've given you just a snapshot of things today. And so, but when you're talking about, like, we could spend an hour just talking about the grief. We could spend an hour just talking about how to connect with teens or tweens. There are millions of things to be shared. And so, yeah, I'd be really open to that conversation.
Thank you so much. There was several acknowledgements of how poignant, how moving it was when you did mention the grief aspect. Thank you so much to Kerry, Dr. Kerry Byrne, and we will let you go. I wish your family well. And thank you so much, Kerry. And for everybody else, as long as you can stay on for another 10 minutes, we would love to share. I'm seeing some hearts flying at you, Kerry. We would love to.
Thank you.
We'd love to share your ideas for bringing Hanukkah to life, for connecting with your grandchildren who live far away over Hanukkah. So, Kerry, we're going to say goodbye to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And
thank you for having me. Thank you for engaging. It's been just a real pleasure to be here. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. If everyone else, we are due to go till 8:15 if you have the time. And over to you now. Over to you for ideas that you'd like to share in chat. Unmute yourself. We're just a small group now of 111. So I invite you to unmute yourself and tell us how you have shared Jewish traditions over the miles.
How do I raise my hand?
Just speak. Go for it.
I now live 8 minutes from my grandchildren, and it is an incredible blessing with its own set of challenges, being that my daughter-in-law is not my daughter, and we have some challenges. But I started this when I was still in New Jersey and they were in Maryland. On Friday evening, I asked for Shabbat blessings time. And I sent each child, they're young, they're 4.5, 2.5, and 6 months. So I sent a tzedakah box to the 2 older children, an appropriate child's tzedakah box. And I have candlesticks. And I asked if we could Zoom. Of course, challah being the big draw. And I found out where near them 50 little challah rolls could be purchased and sent to them. So they got the challah rolls, they got the tzedakah boxes, I had my candlesticks, and I asked if we could just do the Shabbat blessings. And we started doing the blessings. And the most amazing thing was when I draw the light towards myself as I light my candles, the children saw that. And now that I live in Maryland near them, they do that when we're together for Shabbat dinner. And this is not a terribly Jewish household. My daughter-in-law is not Jewish. But this is something that Nana does. And because I was doing it, they started doing it. And it's very important to me. And I'll tell you one other thing. When my children went off to college, I started doing the parents' blessing for Shabbat on the phone with them. And over the years, I gave my bracha to them at a frat party, at a dance club, at a soccer field. But every Friday night, I would call them. And the one time in all of the years that I forgot, my phone rang at 3 o'clock in the morning. And my son said, I can't go to sleep. You didn't give me my bracha. I can't go to sleep. So you don't know until you start doing them. But just the blessings, they get coins. I give them now. I have a little Ziploc bag for each child with coins in it for their tzedakah boxes, and for them to now I can pick up the challah for them. I've actually started baking it, which they are totally freaked over. But I make sure I do the legwork to make sure that all of the things for the blessings, I've now purchased each child a Chanukiah. So when it's Hanukkah Thursday night, they can light their candles and know that it came from me.
Beth, thank you so much. You could host a session for us.
Definitely not.
Let's thank you very, very much. Is there anybody else in the few minutes we have left who would like to share what has worked for sharing Jewish traditions over the distance?
I said, this is Ruth Nemzov. I said all my kids who are old enough to have their own device, I send them every night of Hanukkah a different Hanukkah song by 613 or any Jewish singing group, any Hanukkah song there is. And of course they roll their eyes now, but I know they expect it and they look fondly at it.
Thank you, Ruth.
Could we have your list of Hanukkah songs?
Well, just Google a cappella groups, Jewish a cappella groups.
Yeah, we've got the 613 ones. I thought you might have some others. It's a great idea.
Yeah, good.
Maccabees.
The Maccabees, yeah. Then there's also the song about Hanukkah in Santa Monica. That's an old famous one. So just keep sending them. They're all
That's a
over the
great
place.
idea, Ruth. It's a great idea, Ruth. And Spotify, I just Googled Spotify's got a Hanukkah playlist. You might find that helpful. Shelley, would you like to jump in? Shelley Rothman Benheim, you can just unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I bought a bunch of Hanukkah knickknacks, stickers, playthings, lots of things to do with Hanukkah. And I was planning to save them until the summer when we do our annual trip to Israel and give it to the grandchildren at that time. But after tonight's session, I was thinking that when we do a Zoom on Thursday for the first night of Hanukkah, that I'll actually show them the things that I bought and tell them that I will give that to them in July or August. What else? Because so far mailing stuff hasn't worked very well.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shelley. Anybody else before we sign off?
Carrie,
Yes.
can you hear me? It's Sharon Jacobs.
Hi, Sharon.
Hi. I started this when I was making Purim baskets for my in-town grandchildren, and it's just all using a box and duct tape. And I just put the duct tape around it. And then I said, wait a minute, this is great. My out of town, I have two grandchildren in Nashville. I can send their gifts with this duct tape around, and I just take a 3x5 card and put their name on it so that the mail, the postal office can see it. But it makes sending these gifts for Hanukkah, for Purim, whatever, just so much more special.
Lovely.
It's fun to receive these colorful boxes.
Yeah.
See it, but it's all I don't want to, I'm not that artistic, but using the duct tape is really fun for them.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Sharon. So good to see you again after all these years. Anybody else want to share before we sign off? All right, then I think we are going to end on that note. And I want to just say huge thanks. First of all, we're at 8:18, and this is longer than we've ever gone. I hope you found it useful. We'll be asking you to fill out a very short survey giving your feedback about how you found the session tonight. We really would appreciate it if you could tell us, because this is how we improve our programming. We so appreciate you sharing your time with us and being here tonight. And we look forward to seeing you again soon at an upcoming event where we will be talking about Shabbat, bringing Shabbat to life and how to do it over the miles. So to everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. Have a great night.